Hello and welcome to Change Your Story, Change Your Life. I'm your host, Reverend Mitch Austin, and I'm just so excited about today's show. Change Your Story, Change Your Life was born out of a little class called Rise and Speak, where I take people over a 7-week journey to look at the defining moments of their life and find the lesson or blessing. And I was seeing all of these amazing healings, and I thought, why not do a show on it and have guests where we talk about the journey and the unfolding and walk away with some inspiration and some insight? Because the truth is, we live in stories, we move in stories. So I think when we can share our stories, we all grow a little more in the light, a little stronger, a little more hopeful about our own journeys. And I'm so excited today to have my guest, Cerise Patron, with us. Cerise is an internationally recognized inspirational singer, songwriter, motivational speaker, and spiritual tour operator to Central and South America, Europe as well, and going to Costa Rica soon. So we're going to hear more about that. She has produced 4 CDs of her music, and she's also, get this, a songwriter for hire. Yeah, she'll write you a song, right for you or a loved one. She is currently in ministerial school in the Emerson Theological Institute and travels around the country singing, speaking at Unity and religious science churches. Welcome, Cerise. So glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. I'm so excited.
Where are you at in the world and what are you up to?
So I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and right now I'm singing a lot, getting ready for the holidays, right? I'm doing songwriting for different people and organizations, and I'm getting ready for tours coming up this coming year. I've got a tour to Scotland, I've got 2 to Costa Rica, and I've got 2 to Peru to go to Machu Picchu and the rainforest. So lots of fun stuff happening, and I'm also, working on school, and I'm a mom. So it's like juggling. Juggle with love.
Yeah, you got a lot going on, and I loved with my guests, I tried to meet with them before the show just to learn more about their lives and kind of see the journey through my guests' eyes. And with you, Cerise, my goodness, I feel like you've had many lives in this one life from our discussion. And if your life were a book, what would the title be?
I think the title would be How to Survive Anything and How to Thrive Through Everything.
Oh my God, how to survive anything and how to thrive through anything. No, through everything.
Through everything.
Wow. So speaking of surviving, your life got off to a really interesting start, didn't it? Especially religiously. Yeah.
Yeah. So part of my family, half my family were LDS, and the other part of my family were sort of Pentecostal from the mid part of the country, New Thought, very fundamental Christian, falling out in the spirit, all the speaking in tongues. And then you don't even know this, but my mom was Catholic. So it was my mom, my dad, and my grandparents, and there were 3 religions. And the interesting thing is that I did have a lot of fundamental beliefs, and I went, I was singing and doing all this stuff in churches. But really, what I learned from my family that I don't think they meant to teach me, and that's okay, was that since everyone believed something different and they all told me that that was the truth, I learned that different truths apply to different people.
Ooh, tell me more. Do you have an example of that?
Well, I mean, what I realized is like my mom was Catholic, but she didn't really practice a lot. So she believed, and she still is, but you know, she has a lot of the faith and the beliefs and the sort of foundation of growing up that way. And so she would say, "Oh, it's really important that, you know, you do this." And I would say, "Okay, it's really important. We, you know, I have a rosary, I have those things from her." And then my dad would say, "Oh, well, but it's also really important that you commune with spirit, because
Right.
the Holy Spirit is what is guiding you." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, my mom didn't teach me about that. Okay, you did." And then, you know, my grandparents and my aunt were LDS, and really on that side, it was about family being everything. I mean, there's a lot in the religion, but
Yeah.
family being everything, and that the commitments you make to your family, to God, or your relationship with God is the most important thing. So I learned all these things and realized that I could take things from each one of them. And as I grew up, it did make me a little confused for a number of years. And then
Who's
when
right?
I know, I was like, "What? I don't understand." But then when I found New Thought,
Mm,
which, you know, is not always the easiest thing to do. I think we always come to it in different ways.
true.
But when I did, I sort of went, "Oh, I see how this is a compilation of all the most powerful things I've ever heard, and a lot of things I hadn't ever heard." And so it made more sense, I think, when they all came together and I sort of saw my own experiences, that everybody thought they had the right path, and it was for them. And I think that I just learned that it's okay to find your own path.
I love that. I've always been a firm believer that there's so many ways to look at God, really, because not everyone's going to resonate with just one way. You
Right.
know, just like there's more than one flower, right? Not everyone's going to
Exactly.
think one flower is beautiful. So it's just kind of it's always made sense to me.
Yeah.
And I love how you've had like these three different views influence you.
Yeah.
And something you mentioned that I thought was really intriguing in our discussion was, you know, you got an early head start on preaching, didn't you?
I did. I actually started preaching when I was about 14 or 15, in non-denominational churches and Pentecostal churches through the Bible Belt. So we lived in South Carolina at the
Mhm,
time, and I started there. My dad was a pastor of a church.
mhm.
My great aunt and uncle were pastors of a church. My grandparents at one point were pastors of a church. So I come from a long line of Christian pastors. And and so when we moved to Arizona, we traveled across the United States by car,
Yeah.
and we just stopped and preached and sang. And my son recently found a cassette tape of me preaching when I was 16 years old. And
Yeah.
I have tried to hide it from him, but he keeps finding it.
He just wants to know, just wants to hear what you sound like at 16, right?
Jokingly calling it his VHS tape. I'm like, "No, no, no, it's a cassette, but I know you won't know."
They don't know. They don't know any of
I
that,
don't
do
do
they?
any of it. But yeah, so I started preaching. I did a missions trip to Venezuela for 10 days with our church.
Mm,
We were Assembly of God at one point, so I did a missions trip, and
wow.
there was a lot of interesting experiences, and you know, speaking in tongues and casting out demons. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and you know, it really was very real. It really was a very real experience for
Mhm,
me and for everyone who was having it. So
mhm.
I try very hard not to discount that, or the beliefs of others, because it really is a foundation for each of us as human beings, what we believe. And I think the most important thing for me is that people don't hurt each other because of it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
When
you get to believe what you want, but not hurt others.
yeah, when we start crossing over into the lanes of dehumanizing people,
Yeah,
um, you know, that's when all the toxicity of us hurting each other kind of comes out.
yeah.
And I think it's particularly sad when we do it in the name of God or religion, or, you know, we use that as our excuse, you
Yeah,
know, or reason. Because what it does is it creates a wedge for those people who are wounded between them and their higher power at times, not always, but it can.
right,
And
right.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So you did the traveling thing, but then at one point in your youth things got kind of bumpier, like you were in group homes or you were a foster
Oh
child?
no, I was taken from one home and put in with my father. So I did move when I was 12 and a half, 13. I moved from living with my mom and my stepdad to living with my dad. And of course that changed. I mean, because my parents were divorced and I wasn't living with my father already, things were different. And my father was different. My parents divorced when I was 8. And by the time I moved back in with him, he had gone from, I don't think he would mind this. He has passed away, but I don't think he would mind me letting people know that he was, he liked smoking marijuana and he was just happy all the time. He was kind of a 70s hippie. That was my dad. And by the time I moved in with him, when I was a young teenager, a preteen, he was the pastor of a church and he had been saved and he turned his life over to God and he was leading a community and it was a very different person. And not bad. I mean, he really was a wonderful father. He was. And but it was a different experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely my life shifted a lot. I moved a lot. I was, living in a lot of different homes and states and stuff when I was growing up. When I was born, my parents were both in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
So we did move around a bit. And
Yeah.
yeah. And my parents came from different parts of the country. So they had different upbringing themselves. My mom was born and raised in New Orleans. And
Ooh.
my dad was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So Arizona seemed to be where we were like, okay, all of us can commune here.
Two different cultures coming together. Was she Cajun? Is your mom still on the planet or no?
She is, yeah, absolutely, and
Yeah.
she's actually Guatemalan. My grandparents immigrated to New Orleans from Guatemala, so I'm half Guatemalan and half Scottish, Irish, German. Mine's
With
57 that my dad is.
Christian, Pentecostal, and LDS
I'm
influences.
telling you, I
Oh,
am the living proof that people can get along.
yeah, that is awesome. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that story, and I love that insight.
Yeah.
So now I think at one point you'd hit a point where you were unhoused in your journey, or
Yeah, I mean, when I moved, like when I graduated high school, I was a bit of a mess. Let's put it that way. So I bounced around a lot. Yeah, and I had some really terrible experiences, and not being 20, 21, and a lot of us do. I think those are just the years when things are rough because you're trying to figure it out, right?
right?
And yeah, I was living in my car for a bit. I was sort of bouncing. I didn't have anywhere to go. I got kicked out of my apartment. My mom let me sleep on her sofa for a while. I mean, it was, like
Yeah,
it was a little dire.
yeah.
And actually that's around the time of the 9/11 attacks was when that happened. And so there was a lot of fear and I didn't know what to do or where to go. I mean, I had a place that I could sleep, my mom's house. But at one point I was sort of living in my car for a while. Let's put it that way. I was like, I'm going to sleep here.
Right.
And so I'm very grateful that I've always had people in my life to pick me up when I was flattened by life.
Mm,
And the universe has always shown me that there's a lot of good and a lot of purpose if I say yes to it. So, yeah.
I've always noticed it seems like we can see the hand of spirit the clearest when life is the leanest, the
Yes.
thinnest.
Yeah.
We can see that something coming out of nothing or a path where there was none.
Exactly.
Hearing and it's such a humbling experience because I've had some of those situations in my life where really by my own strength I cannot change this. I need another solution. That is, and that can make you real spiritual.
Oh, it does. Yeah. That is faith in practice. Faith in form. Because it's true. I mean, I did not grow up with any amount of money or anything. We were pretty poor. My parents did the very best they could, but it wasn't, always good. I mean, we didn't live in great neighborhoods, and there were lean times. I mean, I remember my mom used to have picnics with us with mustard sandwiches. I thought it was something fun, but we didn't really have money that we could afford something other than mustard sandwiches. So I thought that was like, oh, we're having a mustard sandwich picnic. This is a good day.
We're living high. We're living
high on the hog because we can have mustard sandwiches for dinner.
We don't know. We don't know. I remember when I was 7 years old and the church came over, or people came over with all these bags of groceries. And I thought it was like the best day ever. I was all excited. I was looking through all the bags. And later when everybody left, my mom was, sitting there real quiet, smoking her cigarette. And I'm like, looking at her, and I'm trying to process this because I'd never seen people come over with bags, and there wasn't much in our cupboards. And I asked my mom, because I was trying to figure it out, like, why is she upset? Because we should be happy. And then I asked her, I go, Mom, are we poor? And she just looks at me, and she has tears in her eyes. And I'm like, are you crying? And she's like, no, it's smoke. And she goes, no, we're not poor. And I went, okay. And I went outside and played, like,
sounds good.
I know. I know. So it's funny how we do that. So, Cerise, when did life start to get to higher ground for you? What was the shift that happened for you?
Well, you know how they always say that it's darkest before the dawn? That's the truth. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I was saying was that things were really tough. And my best friend took her own life in front of me and her partner and her grandson. And that was, I mean, I would probably have said it was the worst possible day of my entire life at the time. And what I can see now is that was actually the biggest blessing in my life also. Because that moment, as horrific and I mean, painful, it's still, all these years later, is painful. There is this gift that came from it, because I think that was the first day of the rest of my life. It was the day I questioned what I believed about life, about God, about myself, about sanity, about being comfortable in life, what that looked like, what that felt like. You and I had talked a little bit before the podcast that her spouse gave me a book that she had purchased but never read. And it was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And part of me said, I just want to read this book, because she didn't get the chance to. And there was probably a little bit of would it have made a difference, right? Because there's so much what could I have done? What could someone have done? There's so much that comes up, and because you feel like you miss signs. And so I really wanted to research this book and find out if it could have helped her. And what I found in that book was, for me, I found love. I found love that I didn't know existed, that I had always been looking outside for. I'd been looking for it in God there, right? God up there, God out there, people out there. I had been looking for it. And this book, the line that hit me was, your entire life has led you to this moment. There is no accident. And I read it and I cried, and I felt like I was really having a conversation with the divine for the first time in my whole life.
Wow.
After being a preacher, after being in churches, after watching, TBN and all of those things, and going on missions trips. And I felt like it was the first time I had a real conversation with the divine. And I can look back now and see that was the moment it began to turn around. It wasn't all easy.
Yeah.
But that was the moment it began to turn around, and I began to take responsibility for my own life and who I am, who I'm showing up as
Wow.
in the world.
Wow. And from what I remember with our discussion around this book is you got a different view of God through this book
Yeah.
than in the other three religions.
Yeah, because I had never heard of an all-loving God. I had never
Oh.
heard of a God that is all-accepting, that you don't have to perform a lot of tasks to make God love you. You don't have to repent in a certain way to make God love you, you know? I had
Mhm.
never heard of that kind of God. And so, and I think I even remember you asking me, was it hard to accept that? And there was a moment it was hard. And there was sort of this back and forth, like, oh gosh, maybe it's wrong. Oh gosh, maybe it's right. Oh, you know, there was
Mhm.
it went back and forth. But what I realized is that my intuition was calling me to walk through that door.
Yes.
I could feel it. And
Yeah.
every time I read another part of the book, I
Right.
would feel it calling me and feel it calling me. And I had never heard of New Thought or New Thought religions or religious science or unity or anything of that nature.
Wow.
Um, and in the book, it said, you know, there are some religions that are already working with this image of God and this idea of love. And it mentioned religious science. And so there I was, you know, homeless, like sometimes living in my car, like back and forth, driving down the road. I've lost my job because I did some stupid stuff. I'll just be honest.
Mhm.
Some stupid things. I was 21. I had no money. I had no prospect for the future. I had no purpose in life. I was roaming around in the dark. And I had not only had I lost my job, I got kicked out of my apartment because I was a leasing agent and I did something stupid. You don't get to live at the complex either
No.
if you get fired. That's
No.
how it works. So and I drove by this strip mall, and there was a sign that said Creative Living Fellowship, a religious science church and teaching center. And I went, wait a second. The book was talking about that. I should go. And so I did. And I walked in, and, you know, that was October 8th of 2001.
Wow. Wow. So here you are now kind of led or directed in some way to this center. But
Yeah.
it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns from the get-go. There was still some struggles, but
I'm
we're going
telling
to get
you.
into that yeah, we'll get in that in a second. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll come back and we're going to unpack your journey into new thought.
Okay.
So nobody go away. We'll be right back.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Welcome back, everyone, to Change Your Story, Change Your Life. I'm here with the amazing Cerise Patron, and we are getting into it. Her first walk into a New Thought Center in 2001, after having walked the path a little bit Catholic, a little bit Pentecostal, a little bit LDS, and now this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is that I want to also say that I have been singing all my life, sort of piece by piece, right? But I hadn't been singing in a long time. And so when I walked in, there was music. Daniel Nahmad's song was playing. That was their congregational song. And the choir had just been formed for the center, and they were having their very first choir rehearsal after church. And so all the pieces, and I really did just sit in the service and cry. I mean, tears just flowed down my face, and I was like, I am home. I am home. And a woman, I don't know if you know who she is, but she is a very powerful singer. Her name is Renee Morgan Brooks, Reverend Renee Morgan Brooks. She's from here in Phoenix, beautiful, amazing singer. And she was singing that day, and she was singing Accentuate the Positives. And everything fell right into place in my soul. My spirit said, yep, this is where you're supposed to be. This moment is where I have been leading you.
And yet your mind, on some levels, was still kind of struggling with it.
Yeah, there were some levels but at that point, my heart knew I was supposed to be there. So there was this, and I think that we all have that. Well, what if this is wrong? And what if something, but the more I learned, the more I involved myself in my own connection with spirit, the more I realized that is what it is about. It is about the relationship, the connection we have to our own higher power. And that is what we decide. It's not what somebody else tells us.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I really love about New Thought, particularly religious science. And one of the founders, Ernest Holmes, who said, look, don't believe me, put this to the test, do your own journey, get your own understanding.
Yep.
Right. Because there's really no substitute for that. It's not purely an intellectual or ceremonial or procedural process.
Right.
Although many religions, use those things. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but they're just not a substitute for a granular embodiment of the ineffable, right? God's spirit.
Absolutely.
By whatever name. So I know you're an amazing singer. Gosh, I had a personal experience of you singing to me. And when you sang, I actually felt it in my solar plexus, a cappella. It was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was quite beautiful. When did you discover that you had a voice? Because I know you're not professionally trained, right? No, it's just this is one of the gifts you got from God, that you unwrapped.
Yeah. I was in choir and stuff growing up, in church or chorus in school, but that's the most training I've had. So I will say that most of my family sings on my dad's side. My dad was an amazing singer, played guitar, songwriter. My grandmother played piano, was also a songwriter, singer. My aunts sing, my uncles sing. I mean, everybody on that side of the family, except for a few people here and there, have beautiful voices. And we always used it for church. That is where you used your voice. Of course, when I was 12, I was going to be the next Whitney Houston. And I was going to be super famous. And I was going to leave all that church stuff behind. But what I realized is that for me, singing comes from my soul. It comes from my soul. So even when I was 3 or 4, 5 years old, I was singing. When I was 8. So here, I'm just going to give you a little insight quickly. When I was 8 years old and 9 years old, I was in the chorus at school, and they would give me solos. And they would dress me up in little outfits and put me to sing and the saddest songs they could find, so that everyone in the audience would cry. And I feel like the music teachers thought that was what showed that they were successful, that they could get this little girl to sing for people and make everybody cry. So I learned early on that if you can sing and get everybody to cry, you have done your job. So I will often do that when I'm singing, and they're not crying. I got to dig in more.
Ramp it up a notch.
Ramp it up. But no, what I really learned was that it's about soul to soul connection. It's
Yes.
about God talking to God.
Yeah.
And so when I sing, I feel like I'm opening my soul
Mm,
to reach in, and that music gets to touch and heal another soul.
yeah.
And I'm not trained in how to do that, but that is one of the gifts that I was given to do, and I have been called to do, and so I continue to say yes to that call.
Blessed be. I'm so grateful that you do. Yeah, it's such a gift. And I've heard you sing on stage too. It's amazing. So, Cerise, you are happily married and you have how many kids?
I am. I have 3 kids here on earth, and I have 1 in heaven.
Yeah.
So yeah, you said that everything is not all rainbows and unicorns, and that's true. Life doesn't always go the way you plan. And
Right.
12 years ago, my son Mateo passed away during childbirth. And yeah, so it was very, very difficult, and I still miss him.
Yeah.
And I choose to live in honor of him instead of in missing him.
Yeah, and I know there's a powerful story around this, and we are
Yeah.
going to get to that story
Yeah.
as well. But you're also a passionate ally or advocate or part of the community, the LGBTQ plus. I'm not sure how you identify, so I'm
Well,
putting them all.
I usually call myself an ally, and we did have that conversation. I have been in relationships with people of different genders, and one of the things I will say is that, and we talked about that, is because I married a cisgendered man, the way it looks to everyone in the world is that I am completely straight, and that but it is very important to me that this world is not a place that hurts people for any reason, for their choices, for who they love. It's very important to me. It's very important to my family. It's very important to my friends and those around me. And so I am committed to being part of the change to make sure
Right.
that love prevails.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And if we all just did a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Even parts like just being seen, your willingness to say, yes, I'm married to a cisgendered man, but I've dated people with other gender expressions,
Yeah.
and normalize that. Wouldn't it be great? We just normalize that.
Yeah.
Like we don't even put a label on it anymore. We just assume somebody's on the spectrum of it, and whatever it is great.
Exactly. And whatever it is perfect, because it's up to them. Well, and I think it's really important also because we do it with so many other things, right?
Yes.
We let people have the religion they choose. They get to live where they want to live. They get to dress how they want to dress. They get to color their hair.
Yeah.
But then we say, oh no, you can't love that person, or that is wrong somehow. And so, yeah, so it's a very important thing to me. And I'm very grateful to have opportunities every day to grow, to educate myself, to help educate others,
Yes.
and to be part of making sure that, like I said, love prevails, and that it is for the better tomorrow.
Yeah, no, and I love that love prevails, because the answer is love.
Right.
When we start pathologizing, people's sexual preferences or gender expression, or all these things, we make people less than, right? All of a sudden they become second-class citizens, and that's not really what's going on. And I think we only do that out of ignorance because we don't know what else to think about it.
Yeah.
And I love that we have shows like this where we can talk about it.
Yeah.
As if we were talking about, how to pick out spaghetti sauce, because I always love the spaghetti sauce example. There used to be just red and white. That was it. Now you go and there's like 4 shelves. There's chunky, there's mild, there's Italian, there's roasted vegetables, and everything seems to be differentiating itself granularly. Everything.
Yeah.
Our experience,
absolutely.
how we express our gender and live our lives, and
right.
who we love, and all those types of things. So.
Yeah.
How did you meet your husband? Now that's a great story.
I know. Okay. Well, so my husband and I met on Craigslist. And I always make the joke, and I don't mean, but it's before it was murdery. I always say that, but I mean, it got dangerous.
It
And
did for a while.
don't
Yeah.
recommend people just jump. And believe me, I hear horror stories all the time of people who tried to meet somebody online. It didn't, or did not even that it got dangerous, but that it's so difficult to
It
do.
is. Yeah.
So I know that this was just how. I'm pretty sure now that I've been with my husband for 18 years. I know why we had to meet on Craigslist, because he doesn't go anywhere or do anything. And he's kind of a hermit. So he's a very quiet, introspective, keeps to himself. But yeah, so I was on Craigslist looking for a ceiling fan. My friend said, you need to try to find somebody. And I was like, well, nobody's going to want a heavy set woman. So I'm plump and that's me. And, I said, nobody's going to want that. And she said, well, check. And so there's a acronym BBW for big, beautiful woman. She said, put that in the search and see what comes up. And what came up was a whole bunch of do not come at me if you're BBW. And then one that was looking for his BBW princess.
Oh,
so sweet. But I was not a very nice person. When I saw it, I was so skeptical about love. And I just didn't think that it existed at that moment. So I was a little rude, but in my response was, today's your lucky day. Look at me. I'm the BBW princess you've been dreaming of. And I sent this message thinking he's going to go, oh, what an idiot. And he was like, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you.
Just all puppy-eyed.
I was like, oh, here we go. But then, we started talking and laughing. We had so much in common. And then we met in person. And it was like we'd known each other for years. And, the rest is history. We started dating. We got married rather quickly. I don't think we talked about that. But no, everybody got really scared because we had our first date on January 20th and we got married on May 12th.
What is that? February, March, April, May, 4 months later? About 4 months later. When you know, I guess, right?
Yeah, when you know. So, and now, we've been married for 18 years. We've been together for 18 years and we've had 4 kids and we've been through the ups and through the downs and he's still my rock. And, and we're I always joke that we're the yin yang. I'm this outgoing and let's go love the whole world. And he's the logical. Is this logical? Are we making sense when we're making? And I'm like, who cares? I feel it in my soul. He's like, no. You also have to make sure you think about it. Don't just feel it. Think about it.
So you got the balance there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Huge amount of balance in our house. So, and as we said before, I'm singing, I'm traveling, I'm doing all this stuff. And he is kind of the homebody. So he stays home and he holds down the fort and he keeps the house safe and stable while I'm traipsing around the world. So it's really important that our yin yang work. And it's, such a blessing that it does, because it's the reason that I can go live my purpose and he lives his purpose and his work and what he does. And our kids get to, live their purpose and be creative and find out what they want to do with their lives. And yeah, it all works because we work together as a family to make sure it does. And I know that the universe made sure that we all had what we needed to get there.
I love that. He's got his lane, you got your lane, and you like your lanes. It's not that you're forced into those lanes. It's just that they work. And so much of what I'm learning about relationships is that's critical.
Yeah.
That your values and vision for moving through the world are compatible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, somebody's going to have to, be less than in their journey, and that creates all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to cut to commercial in a second, but I know that you have some beautiful bright lights that you're raising in this world, one of which is special needs.
Yes.
And that's been quite a journey as well. So nobody go away. We're going to do a quick commercial. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the kids a little bit and some of the amazing stories around that. So don't go away. Welcome back to Change Your Story, Change Your Life. ANTN, I love that commercial. Cerise and I met at the ANTN retreat at Unity Village, and they have the retreat the first week of October. So this is where you want to be in 2024, that first week. In fact, this last retreat was life-changing for me. I had breakthroughs that I didn't even know were available to me. They bring speakers from all over the world. They have people teaching sessions, or you can just go walk on the beautiful Unity Village campus. So first week of October, antn.org. Check it out. It's amazing. So Cerise.
Yes.
Mommy Cerise. I remember when we were doing our pre-interview, you're like, wait, hold on. Nope, not yet. You're all directing traffic with your kids.
I have like people here trying to get to me. Yeah. Oh, mom. The mom is like having planets orbit around you.
You're the center of the universe, and they're just
wait, right? I'm feeling cold.
So tell us a little more about your kids that you feel comfortable sharing.
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, my son Alex has autism. Mm-hmm. He does have severe autism. He's, very high special needs. He is in a special school. He's, I think, the most loving, sweet, talented. This kid can draw and sculpt animals like anatomically correct. And
really,
yeah, he's really amazing. And, he has autism. So there's, definitely therapies and, Department of Disabilities and all that kind of stuff. So we have our hands full with that. And we're grateful that we have the patience and love and knowing and truth to be able to take care of him in a way that is powerfully beneficial for him, not just,
not just maintaining him, but giving him a life.
Exactly. And then my son Kenneth is his twin brother. So they are 11 and they are twins. And Kenneth is neurotypical. So he has progressed normally through his growth. And he is a comedian. Oh, he's a comedian. That kid will make you laugh. And he knows everything about animals and birds. And this last week we had a snake in our garage.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a little snake. It's Arizona. That happens sometimes. And I was, I sent a picture to somebody and they said, oh, I think it's a rattlesnake. It's a baby. You're in danger. I was so scared. Yeah. And my son looked at a picture and went, it's not venomous. Here's why. And he's telling me why. And then, of course, I mean, he's 11. I had to get a professional opinion. So I sent it off to the Phoenix Herpetological Society, the photo, and they said, oh, not venomous. And here's how you can tell. And they told me the same thing my 11-year-old told me. So
good mom, you should fact check. Let's just be honest.
Exactly. I mean, but so yeah, he's the one who's going to grow up and have an animal sanctuary. I'm pretty sure that's, his final goal in life. And then my daughter, Maya, she is almost 16. And she, I'm going to change a little bit about how I speak about her, because I know a lot of people who know me know that it's Maya, right? And Maya is gender fluid. So I will refer to them as they, and has their own challenges. Some very, even today, some serious challenges, some horrible, she was spit on and called an F word. That is derogatory against the LGBTQ community. And so we've been dealing with the school all day, dealing with that because, there was a lot of, your child needs to have thicker skin. That was what.
That's their response to abuse.
Your child needs to have thicker skin because they have chosen to live this life. They will have it happen more often. So, so this afternoon was spent helping my child get in a nice bubble bath and letting them know that I will stand always for them.
Oh, Cerise. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And, we know that these things don't necessarily stop, but education is possible. And the school is about to get a big education from Mama Bear.
Yeah, watch out.
Be careful because it's coming.
The Pentecostal's coming out right now.
I'm like, and
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Oh my
but
gosh.
so there's always an opportunity to stand for what we believe. And today was another opportunity for me to do that, and will continue to be an opportunity for me to do that. And also teach my children that it's okay to stand up for themselves and that they do not have to put up with abuse.
Yeah.
And they don't just have to walk through life going, oh, I have to be thicker skinned, that people need to learn to also watch what they say.
Yeah.
And how they treat other people. So, there's no, I'm going to hurt anybody because that's not who I am. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
But I will go to bat in love for my children and those I care about. So, so that's coming.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you bring love to the equation. I was running a workshop the other day and I said, we can be on the right side of the argument, but approach it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
In a way that's divisive or, wounding or angry or judgy, then we become, the equivalent of the accuser or the judger or the person doing, that righteousness. So, coming to it with love and humility and education, but also a strong sincerity that you're not a doormat, I think is huge.
Yeah. Well, and how many times have we been taught throughout our lives, and each person in different ways, right? That, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words hurt and they are powerful, and you cannot take them back once you have said them. And the only thing to do is make it right. But I will not teach my kids that it's okay just to say whatever you want or let others say whatever they want. And I think that's part of, what we as a society are ready to up level to, is that our words are powerful and we are powerful beings. And when we speak, it matters. And so if you're going to speak love. And if you're going to listen, you deserve to listen to love. You deserve to be comfortable. You deserve to be free. You deserve to, and yes, people will say things, and there is a level of, learning how to be good in your own skin and comfortable in your own skin. Mm-hmm. Teenagers don't have that quite yet. They're so
and their prefrontal cortex isn't, it's still their rational brain is still developing. So if the adults around them aren't using their prefrontal cortex, then that's, then where's the village to guide our youth? And, thank you for being part of that village, because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I know we have a really interesting story that you and I talked about, and I think we'll use it as part of the signature question, which is, so somebody is getting ready to write the book of life, which is going to serve as a guide for generations to come of wisdom, hope, love, and inspiration. And they want a story from your life. What story would you pick and why?
Well, it's interesting because I knew this question was coming and I had an idea of what I would say. And it's probably a little different now than I thought it would be. So as I told you, I lost my son. He died of a cord accident during childbirth 12 years ago.
Oh.
And we, my husband and I took a tour around Peru. It was a beautiful gift from my in-laws to grieve, to honor. We took his little bear with us. We got him a little bear after his funeral, and took his little bear with us. And we went on this journey of healing and self-discovery, right? And love. I mean, just so much love. And no one did tours like that. I couldn't find anyone who would help me, who would do something with me. And so I sort of planned it myself. So I put it together. My husband and I went, and we did Machu Picchu, and we went to the ruins in Peru, and I'll tell you, just touching the stones that were, carved 1,000 years ago. I can touch them, and there was a moment of connection. Like The people who did this also lost children. They
Oh,
knew they knew what grief was, and
yeah.
they lost loved ones, and they had these powerful experiences. They loved, they lost, they got through it. They lived a lot of these same experiences. And so there was this connection and power. And I got to go to the Temple of the Condor in Machu Picchu,
Ooh.
a carved condor out of the mountain. And they would lay their loved ones to transfer so that they could take transferred by the condor to the heavens. So I got to take my son Mateo's bear to that condor and set it there. And I got to lovingly release his spirit to be free. And there was a moment where I didn't know if I wanted to keep living. And I stood on the mountain overlooking the Urubamba River off of the side of Machu Picchu. And I thought about jumping. I thought about leaving because there's such a strong desire to be with the one you love, whether it's your child or your spouse or your friend or your parents. I mean, there's this strong desire just to be where they are. Yeah. And I knew that people would understand. People would understand. I thought, people will say, of course she lost her child. Of course this would be her choice. And I stood there and I realized what I said earlier in the show, that I had the choice to either live without him, grieving him, missing him, and just waiting for the moment when I get to be with him again. Or I could live in honor of him. And I could be the loving light that he didn't get to be on earth, that he got to be as a spirit, but he didn't get to be on earth. And I could be there for him.
Yes.
And so that is what I chose to do. And it was a choice. So that is what I would say the life lesson for me is that, not every moment of our lives are we given the choice to live or end, right? Not every moment is it this huge choice, but every single step forward we take is a choice in the direction of our dreams, of our life, of who we are becoming, who we're going to show up as, if we are going to be the loving light that we came here to be, or if we won't. It's all a choice. And every day that I get a choice, I choose love.
How beautiful. Wow. Thank you. Yes. So grateful you're still with us. So many gifts, so much love, so much light, so much work to do, right?
Yeah, there is
work to do. But the story doesn't quite end there yet, though. You got pregnant again.
I did. And I had twins. Yeah, I had my twin boys. I had Kenny and Alex. And Alex has autism. And, I had a lot of dreams that I was having twins and that our son Mateo was coming back and was with us. And I do believe in reincarnation. And not everybody does, and that's okay. I do. And I really do believe that Mateo had a brother that he had to bring to us. And so he made sure Kenny got here and that he is my Mateo. And we are so connected. And for me, his autism is not a disability. His autism is that for him, the veil is not just thin. I think it's almost non-existent. And I think he has a hard time just staying on earth. So his brain and his mind and his soul just encompass everything. And it's hard to be a human when you have all of that.
That makes a lot of sense. And also in the dream, because the dream was very interesting when you had shared it with me, that there was a little boy there who said something about having to get his brother, or wasn't there like a narrative?
Well, there were two. I mean, one boy was running in circles and screaming, right. And the other was smiling. And I would say, are you Mateo or are you one of the twins? Are you Mateo? And he just kind of smiled. So in the dream, I sort of realized that he could be both. It's a realization that maybe he's both. And those dreams, a lot of them happened before I even knew I was pregnant with twins.
That's right.
So when I went for our ultrasound, I sort of did a little prayer before because I just lost a child 6 months before that. And I did a little prayer saying, well, I'm sending you love and light, little baby, or both babies if there's two of you. That's what I said. And we went in and they said, oh, look, there's two.
Wow. And twins don't run in your family, do they?
No,
Yeah.
in my husband's family. Yeah, it was it's beautiful, and it it gives me a different, I think probably a different perspective too on my son's autism, because
Mm,
instead of seeing him as broken or in need of fixing or in
yes.
need of help, I
Yeah.
see it as I get to practice all the beautiful ways I get to connect with him that are
Beautiful.
different
Oh,
than traditional ways.
I love that. I love that. Cerise, you are just phenomenal. I just am so grateful for you and your transparency and your willingness to share everything. And I know that your story, your testimony here will touch many other people in,
Thank you.
in whatever they're going through. And if people want to reach out to you, Cerise, if they want to contact you, how can they reach you?
So my website is experience.thesacred.com. And that's got all my singing, my songwriting, my tours. I
Oh,
do have a really cool tour coming up in March, and I still have some discount codes for that. And that is the Pride, Purpose, and Possibilities Tour. So it is an LGBTQ tour. We do have some invited allies, but it is all about really stepping into love in a powerful way, and how to do that so that tomorrow is brighter than today in our community. So,
ah, I
yeah.
love that. How beautiful. In Costa Rica, who doesn't want to go there?
Well, and it's amazing. We actually have bought out the whole retreat center. So it is only our group at the retreat center for a week, and everything's included once you land there. Food
Fun.
and excursions, and I sing every day.
Woo!
Multiple.
Wow.
I sing to you, and we do yoga, and there's all these
Oh,
sound healing and all these beautiful experiences. So it's
mm,
a really fun thing to do, and it's powerful
beautiful.
work at the same
Yeah.
time.
Oh, absolutely. So
Yep.
we're going to have some links. They're going to be here for you to click on to connect with Cerise. There's her email as
Yep.
well. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you for coming on. I think we might do a part 2 at some point. Who knows?
Okay. I would
Cool.
love that. And I appreciate so much. Thank you. It really is an honor to work with you, to know you. You're
Thank
such
you.
a light in the world. So thank you
Oh,
for everything you do.
thank you. And I want to thank New Thought Media Network. Let's make sure we're donating. Put your Starbucks donation in there. $5. All of it makes a difference. And we're going to drop a link. Just click on it, throw a little change in the basket there, and let's keep all these shows going, because they're making a huge difference in the world, and we need more light in the world as well. And I want to thank New Thought. I also want to thank One Source Studios, where I'm broadcasting from, this professional podcast area here that I get to use. And then tune in next week. We're going to be at it again. And until then, share your story, share your life. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching.